when
off
it's
the air.
yeah. All right. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Fleeting Thoughts podcast. I am Joe. Who are you? Oh,
Channing.
Jesus.
Oh,
What?
I'm not sitting on the toilet, I swear. I was
Oh my
stretching my
God.
back. Sorry. I
You,
realized that was a groaning sound that
was
might be
that
misconstrued for something else. Anyway, I'm Channing Cornwall. Welcome to the show, everybody.
yeah, with that background, well, you could be anywhere. You could be sitting
It's
on the toilet.
true. That's why I have it up. Actually, I
After
have it up because what's behind me is a sliding glass door of nothing exciting behind it. So
nothing. There's not
it's
like
being.
there's no like clown just like dancing behind you there that we don't get
I
to
wish I
watch.
was, because people would be mesmerized by that, I think. No, it's just a plain old backyard, with a wood fence. So
Nice.
when I have an office space, I might turn off the background thing once I actually have like a nice space that's somewhat decorative in the background and doesn't
You
look
could
like I'm filming an Al Qaeda hostage video in a fucking cave somewhere.
well, it's a really nice cave if there's a cave going on. Um, yeah. Are you know what you could do if you have an office space is you could put some nice little like mood lighting or accent lights in the background and stuff
Oh, totally.
like
I'm gonna
those
have like those little disco balls that just kind of rotates and creates this nice lighting effect.
and nice distraction from the other
Exactly.
visuals.
Yeah. That might
Yeah.
we'll have to put epileptic seizure warnings before every video
Yeah,
just in
just
case, because you don't
flashes
know.
on the thing there. So, how has your week been? It's been about a week since we recorded our last podcast. What's been
Oh,
going on?
it's been good. It's been working, Monday through Friday, working that 9 to 5.
That M to F.
Helping the folks with behavioral health issues. That's what I do. So
Yeah,
been doing that all week, and then working on some writing, playing some video games, watching some movies, the usual.
nice.
Just living life as
Just
much as I can.
doing it to it.
Getting up at
Wh-
5:15, in the morning to hate myself because I run, and then I bought a total gym
oh yeah,
like almost like a couple months ago. That thing's fucking awesome, by the way. If you want just like a somewhat affordable piece of home gym equipment that doesn't take up a lot of space and is actually pretty effective, totally recommend it. We're not advertising for total gyms necessarily. I'm just saying from my own personal experience.
I have no idea what is a total gym. I feel like I know what that is, but I'm gonna look it up on the other side here.
Oh yeah, you should look up the old Chuck Norris commercials from like the 90s for it. Yeah, I don't think he's
Total.
a spokesman for them anymore, but it's a bench that uses a board that slides up and down, so you elevate the board to increase the weight, and then it has these like they're not resistance bands. I'm trying to think of the best way, but it's like a pulley system, and so you pull like you can do like all these different workouts, and it uses your own body weight based off of the elevation of the sliding board, and it's great for muscle building and toning. It's limited in that because it does use your body weight to, so you'll kind of cap out as far as your weight maxes at a certain point. So it's not really designed for people who want to get really bulky and big and want to bench press like 300 or 400 pounds. But
So I don't know. Can you see that? I
yes,
thought I'd download a picture of it for everybody to
there we
see.
go. Yeah. So it's got like
So
that footrest on the bottom, so you can do squats on it. You can do pull-ups, bench presses, like almost everything. It comes with a workout manual that has a whole slew, and it tells you like which parts of the body it works out. So I get like with it's usually the workouts are about 20 to 30 minutes, and you get like a full blown, like you can feel it everywhere when you get off that thing. So it's
nice.
pretty impressive piece of equipment. I think it was like $400 that I
And you
paid for it.
you don't have to buy weights. It's just
Mm-mm.
all tension
Nope, it's based.
bands.
Yeah, it's basically just that pulley system, and then it comes
Yeah.
with some attachments that you can put on there to use as well for some other workouts. But yeah, I bought one and put it in my garage just to do some because I've always been a runner, but it's still nice to get some other workouts in there. And so I've never been a big fan of weightlifting that much. Like I did kettlebells for a while, and then I actually bought a Gorilla Bow, which is a resistance band trainer. But those are all like pretty limited. And the kettlebell thing I just got kind of bored with after a while. So this was something that I've always been kind of interested in. And then I was doing some research to see like how effective really is it? Or is it, just all more like a lot of those TV infomercial style things that you find out it's actually just garbage.
Yeah,
So, but
for
then no,
sure.
it's been great. I've been using it for a couple months, and it's just a good like overall strength like builder and toner. And I don't want to get bulky. It's just, a way
No,
to build some extra strength.
you don't want to get bulky,
No,
but
I don't want to get
we all. I
jacked.
want to see you bulky.
Do
I
you?
want to see you bulk the fuck up so bad. I can't. I'm just thinking about it all day, every day. Yeah, I want to look at this picture again because look at his fists. Like, did he? Were they like, hey, Chuck, we need you to look like you're about to fight somebody, but like also you're sitting on the thing you're selling.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like about to roundhouse somebody from the seated position. He's gonna jump up and he's gonna fucking back fist him, which
I
is
mean,
the
if
only
you're,
way to fist somebody, really.
of course, yeah, you always
Back
always punch
fist.
backwards. Never this way, always backwards. But I mean, can you think of a better icon to have selling your workout equipment than
No,
Chuck Norris,
no,
who has
obviously
like
not.
books of jokes and
He didn't
is
write
known
those
for his ass?
jokes.
Well, he didn't, but he's so badass that
He,
they were written
yeah, he's
about
so
him.
badass that they just show up out of his beard,
Yeah.
fully
And
formed.
so, I mean, he's Walker Texas Ranger. He's
I loved
Lone
Walker
Wolf
Texas Ranger.
McQuaid. He's all these like iconic characters. So it's like
Yeah,
if it's good enough for Chuck Norris,
I
then
feel like
it's good enough for me.
I'm pretty sure he's been selling those things for like 20 years because I
Oh,
remember that from a
yeah, I was gonna
long time
say
ago.
that's why I told you to look up the Chuck Norris thing. I'm like, I feel
Yeah,
like the moment you see the Chuck Norris ad or image or something, you're gonna be like, ah, the Total Gym. I
yeah,
know now.
totally. I've seen that before. Obviously, Chuck Norris was, more famous in the like 90s, and
Hmm.
that was kind of when that started. But it's cool to see it's still out there, and it must be good if it's still around because a lot of those fads in fitness just go away if
Yeah,
they are not popular.
and that's all I wanted. I just wanted something that just could give me an all around
Yeah,
solid workout without
sure.
having to go to a gym and or invest in a bunch of expensive equipment.
Nice.
So yeah.
Yeah, I'm still using the kettlebells. I am the like least creative worker outer person ever. I'm doing literally the same stuff like that I've been doing for 3-4 years or whatever it's been. And I forget when I started working out, but it wasn't right away.
Well, that was
And
like one of our things that when we were doing the
yeah,
podcast before, like we were both, it was like a big goal we both had at the time was getting more fit because we were both
yeah,
pretty chunky, lazy video
oh yeah,
game, typical, atypical video game nerdy types. So I remember it being something that we kind of worked on it like simultaneously. Because
yeah, it must have
kettlebell,
been.
you were the one who got me into the kettlebells because I was
Yeah,
borrowing some of yours when I was getting started out after you were
nice.
praising him. But I think that using the same workout method's fine. I think it's more just about consistency. If you
Yeah,
like it and it works and it's keeping you in shape, then do it.
yeah. I think if it's well rounded, you should be doing, a variety of things that are keeping you balanced. And then other than that, I don't think it matters much at all.
Yeah.
I do just a ton of body weight stuff and then the kettlebells, and I I generally do them just about every day, maybe take one day off a week. And it's not very intensive, but it's super consistent. So it keeps me, steady.
Yeah. Well, it's good for mental health as well as physical health as well. So,
For sure.
I mean, for
I
me, running has always been that's been something I've done since like high school. So that's always been like my consistent. And then it's like the other side of my workout that is kind of constantly shifted and changed. I think it's because I'm trying to find that thing that I enjoy as much as running that can
Yeah,
balance my workouts more. Which so far the Total Gym, like I said, for like the last couple of months, I've consistently enjoyed using it. So
nice. And
hopefully it sticks for a while.
we are not sponsored by Total Gym, but if they wanted to, we would do ads for them every single fucking time.
But we are actually sponsored by Chuck Norris.
Yeah.
He is a huge Fleeting Thoughts fan.
Oh
So,
yeah. Chucky, old Chucky Poo. We
yeah,
should get him on one of these days on these Zoom
yeah.
calls and have him on. And
I've been
just
trying to get him
talk
working
about
with
some
him
karate.
to get him in some more movies. Like I helped him get that role in Expendables 2. Sorry, that he was in, and I just
Expandables.
have.
It's about folders. It's about
uh,
nice file folders for your filing cabinet. It's just a
it's
whole story about that.
it's tough out there for an old white conservative man. Like that's not what Hollywood's looking
Is
for
that
right
Chuck
now. So,
Norris?
oh yeah,
Isn't that what Expandables 2 is all about?
Exp- expanding your
they're
horizons.
they're expanding their notions of I don't know. National pride. I don't fucking know. I don't know. It's always got to come back to race with you, doesn't it?
It's a hot button
With
topic. It's hard
you
not to talk about.
only you. You're
Only
the only one
me.
who's
I'm the
ever
only one
brought
who
it.
cares.
He's the only one who cares.
I'm just actively trying to convince people that I'm not a white terrorist. That's all.
Active.
I'm just,
you you have
please believe me.
like hats and shirts that say I have a black friend.
Yeah.
I have an Asian friend.
Like
Or
I
it just
haven't,
says like a bunch of different little stick figures with different colors, and it just says these are my friends.
I have one shirt that says it's okay. I voted for Obama twice. And then I have another shirt that's a Confederate, has a Confederate flag on it,
Of course.
but it's on fire.
Ooh,
So that
you mean it's on fleek? It's like
yeah.
super cool.
No, I
Like
mean
it's like
it's burning.
oh, it's
So
literally
yeah.
burning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's cool at all. I don't think you can even have like a negative Confederate flag, like with a circle around it and an
I
X.
don't I mean this could literally be a topic on its own, but just briefly, it's weird that people accept the Confederate flag because it's the flag of traitors. Like how can you call yourself a patriot, right? But then fly the
Yeah.
Confederate flag because it's literally the flag that represents the people who seceded from the government
Well,
and the country, and but then
not to defend them because I'm not going to, but from the perspective of the time of the uh what is that called? The Civil War, both sides felt like they were the legitimate nation. Like both sides were like well, technically, like one side was traitorous to the presidential, like if the president had been on the South side, like the North would have been the traitors, right? Like at the particular time, it was so divided that they both felt legitimate, and that's why I think it can persist into the future. But the justification now is makes no sense. It who I don't understand any of it. Like who it's about history. Yeah. So what? The flag isn't about history. The flag is just a
it's a
symbol of
symbol.
a
Yeah.
particular group of people who wanted to keep slavery and who lost the war, and who, if had won the war, I assume the world had been a much worse place. So like fuck that symbol, and the history is still going to be there regardless of your symbol. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can't
Yeah.
get rid, like, I mean, I guess you can get rid of history by like forgetting it, but I mean there's tons of history that people aren't paying attention to. So
Oh yeah. It's just it's
clinging on to history as a kind of ideological standpoint is just a weak kind of ideology. Like, who cares?
Well, it reminds me of it's like I feel like the closest equivalent would be like if you were living in Germany and still rocking your swastika flag. It's like,
They don't do
yeah, I
that over
mean,
there.
I would say at one point that was considered a legitimate form of leadership in that country.
Yeah.
And, for various reasons, they thought they were right when the rest of us very well know that they were not. And I feel like that's the closest equivalent. It's like, yes, maybe they thought that they were a legitimate form of leadership at one point, and they were, but they're not anymore. And they also stood for the enslavement of a whole race of people. So maybe let's let that
Yeah.
go now because
Well,
they were destroyed.
and if the Confederate flag means a bunch of other things, that isn't clear, because I don't know of anything that it represents other than the South during the Civil War and prior to it, which was known for being the ones to wanted to keep slavery. Other than that, what did it represent? Fucking plantations and hot weather. Like, there's no other thing that I can imagine that is in the general public knowledge that like you could cling to that and be like, well, it wasn't about that, it was about this.
I think the only justification I've heard, because I ashamedly have family members who fucking sport that shit sometimes. And they always are just like, well, it's the rebel flag, these are the people who rebelled against the government and its corruption and blah blah blah. It's like, no, they rebelled because they wanted to keep slaves, and it was going to cost them money if they had to start paying people to actually work their plantations. They had free labor, amongst other things, but ultimately it was really about slavery. Because I even
Yeah.
looked it up when I was
Yeah.
writing like Hell Came With Her. I was, because that takes place I think just like 8 years after the end of the Civil War. And I was like, well, what were the reasons that the South was fighting in the Civil War? What were the reasons why they seceded? Because I was like, maybe there's a lot more to it, and slavery is just the big talking point that we always focus on. But really, outside of it being about some taxing stuff as well, literally the primary motivator was they wanted to keep slaves. So Anyway, that's not one of the topics we had today, but here we are.
No, it isn't, but it is definitely a very interesting topic. Also, if you want to be like, I think the a better example of a rebel flag would be maybe the "Don't Tread on Me" flag, or the original American flag with the, I think it was 15 stars, because
You mean the
essentially America,
13? Maybe
it
the
was at
13.
13.
Yeah, because the 13
Um,
colonies.
13 colonies. That flag was kind of the first flag, and America rebelled against England, which was um, to rebel against, tyranny and monarchy and taxation without representation, and a kind of colonial backlash. And that's a rebel flag, like, which makes America a rebel flag, which is also a kind of ancient history. Like,
Hmm.
what are we rebelling against now? If anything, people are rebelling against us because we're invading all their countries.
Yeah.
So it's not like this is like some, like you, like our government is this moral, like, ooh, let's really. That's what
How
I can't,
dare you,
praise
sir?
flags. I don't praise flags. I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't either.
Just
It's like I appreciate living in this country because it is a good country to live in, but we can also admit that it's got a lot of flaws and there's a lot of things that we could work on and do better. And so it's like I hate those people that like you can't criticize anything about America because it's the greatest country in the world. It's like, no, we can criticize it. I mean, there's a lot of other countries doing things better than we are. I'm not saying that we are the worst. I'm just saying part of enjoying something is also being somewhat critical of it to continue to improve it.
yeah.
But
People need to stop telling me what to do. Like, I don't need it. Don't criticize. Whatever. You don't criticize it. I'll do what I want. Uh, all right. Let's get into our topic. Speaking of the
speaking of,
government,
yeah, not
the
people telling you not what not to do, you know.
speaking of the government man.
Hit us, Joe. What did you want to talk about today?
So I thought an interesting topic would be to discuss, if there's anything much to discuss, because we're probably on the same general side of this thing. Maybe, I assume.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it since you told me the other day what you wanted to talk about. So
It's
curious.
it's the decriminalization and major changing of the classification of drug charges in Oregon, Measure 110. I had to look that up because I didn't put my little name on it. It would have been the thing that I would do, but I'm kind of a lazy um, Democratic participant,
Oh, okay,
in that I
gotcha.
didn't vote. I didn't vote. I haven't voted for anything in years,
Oh, you're
which is
part.
its own
God damn it,
topic. Its
Joe! You're
own
part of the
topic.
problem.
Am I?
You're the reason why Trump got in office in
Oh, I
2016.
am. Yeah, because I
You
voted.
singularly, yeah.
Because I didn't vote for him. It's my fault. Yeah, that's another
A
like
vote,
taboo topic.
a not a vote, or a vote, a no vote was a vote for
maybe
him, as they
maybe you
say.
should maybe you should get that little saying clear before before you throw it out
I'm
there.
getting there, all right. I'm
All
getting
right.
there. It's
Um,
hard to recite things that you don't necessarily believe are true.
that's probably true. Actually, you have to really bend your brain. So yeah, I just thought I think it literally took effect in February of this year, and it was voted in, and it's the only state that has that particular change in the rule, in the law. And I think that it's a cool experiment. I think it's going to be interesting. I think that um, sending people to jail and taking them away from kids and jobs and things for possession of drugs, even hard drugs, I think is wrong. Um, I think it's wrong morally, and I think it's wrong from a kind of practical standpoint, as far as the effects that it has long term for society. So I'm excited to see what happens. I'm sure there'll be some negative consequences, but I think that in general, it takes a kind of mental health, general health, and um, treatment kind of approach to it, and add some programs in for um, helping people deal with addiction and things like that. So um, as somebody who when I was in high school and stuff, was very afraid to get caught with small amounts of illegal but very innocuous drugs. I think it's just makes people more free and more able to make decisions and be adults. And um, I'm I'm not concerned with the other effects of things like addiction to heroin and addiction to meth, like stealing and other crimes, because those are still crimes. And if you steal from people, that's still illegal. And if you hurt somebody, it's still legal. So, um, but if you get pulled over or something like that, if you get stopped on the street, or you're, I don't know how else people get in trouble with drugs, but house parties, do people still do that? I don't know. Not anymore. Not with COVID.
Hopefully, yeah, hopefully not in the last year. So do you
Yeah.
in this bill, does it specify, so is it making certain drugs like legal, or lowering the decriminal or criminal charges on them, or is it just for like a blanket bill? I didn't know if they specified like these specific drugs are going to be decriminalized.
They did. They have to be specific because um, I think that drugs have to be defined in the law. So it's I think like meth, heroin, cocaine, marijuana is already legal in this area, so that's not an issue for the last few years, um, or 2 years or something. It's only been a couple of years for marijuana. Um, but it doesn't make them legal. It just means that instead of being like any amount of heroin or any amount of methamphetamine would have been a felony and you'd go to jail, like if you had tiny little bit or a ton. And now if you just have a couple grams or less or something like that, each drug has its own different amount of it that you can have, and it's still just, I think it becomes a violation, or like a misdemeanor, and it's $100 fine, I think is what I read. And if you want to, you can also choose, even if it's a little bit more than that. There's a certain threshold where you'll get in a little bit more trouble than just a misdemeanor. But if you go to um, a treatment facility, which this bill is supposed to create, then you can have that wiped off and you don't have to pay the $100, and you can go get a health. It's like a health checkup or something like that, where they assess you and they, find out if you're addicted and if you need help, and then they can provide you with that instead of um, uh, charging you.
See, and the idea of like putting people somewhere to be treated makes way more sense to me than just putting them in jail. Like putting somebody in jail because it's a meth on them isn't gonna, like, what's that gonna do really? They're just gonna be there for a little while and then go back
Yeah.
out and most likely just continue to do what they're already doing. Because we have where I work, which I won't say where exactly, just for the sake of not associating myself with any particular place, I guess. But we deal with a lot of patients that are homeless, and most of them are addicted to meth. And so it's not like we're not ratting these people out when they come in to see us and they're clearly high on meth. We're not like calling the cops and saying, hey, this person's here with, they're all doped up. But our focus is on treatment. It's, what can we, like, most people aren't, they're not smoking meth because they like really want to. It's usually because their circumstances are suck, and so they're just looking for any escape that they can get. That's why most people do drugs, I think. It's just because it's a way to cope with reality. And so the idea of creating treatment centers is far more appealing and like way more useful than just putting people in jail, because if you can create programs that can help get people sober and then start tackling the problems that cause them to start using drugs in the first place, you're going to create a long-term solution for these people, and they can become like a productive member of society again and be healthy again. Whereas just, yeah, putting them in jail, totally just a waste of time. I mean, really, like the only time you should be putting somebody in jail that's on meth or some other drug is if, they fucking stabbed somebody or they broke into somebody's house and stole some shit, because I mean, that does unfortunately happen a lot when people are on, especially on meth, man. People on meth are scary because they don't even know what they're doing, like at any given time,
Yeah.
depending on how much they've smoked. Like I've dealt with some people where I've had people take swings at me because like when we're just trying to help them. And so yeah, meth is fucking no joke, man. That shit'll ruin your life.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of people that are not in good shape because of it. And so
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I think this is almost exclusively to try to lessen the negative consequences of those minor offenses and those
Mhm.
kind of daily users and those addicted people who are having lots of health issues because of it. And it's not decriminalizing distribution of meth and the manufacturing of meth. And so those are still really big crimes, and those are what kind of the feds and DEA and local law enforcement are going to be looking for, is for the people who are kind of supplying these horrible drugs for people, these things that don't have really any potential benefits and cause psychosis and all these problems, and all the zits that they get, and you know what I mean, and the scratching and the
Oh yeah,
crawling
the
skin and
sores and the
and then you can have the transmitted diseases through needles and things like that, and then obviously homelessness and children going, their parents end up having their kids taken away from them because of it. So I think it's drugs that are debilitating as opposed to drugs that are therapeutic. There's also, we'll have to talk about it some other time, but the psilocybin for research, I believe that one passed as well. I was starting to look into it, and I didn't get that far. But that was a felony before, and I think that and marijuana was a felony at a certain weight. So I just think it's a good sign that that we can progress to things that I think people agree on. Like I think people agree with the general outcome of this law. I'm sure there are plenty of people who don't, but for the most part, it seems like the country is getting more liberal when it comes to um, that type of law, that type of circumstance, and a little bit more in the way of it's a little more scientific to treat this in this way. This is a bit of a social experiment to do it this way, but the general science around addiction and the science around treatment of addiction, while it isn't perfect, to me it seems um, more useful, more pragmatic. It's probably less expensive, because I know it's super expensive to keep people incarcerated and have people go back to prison, and you can definitely get drugs in prison. So if you're trying to have people not do these horrible drugs, then you have to invest in education and therapy and things like that.
yeah, like their own well-being. Because like
Yeah.
I said, that people's desire to use drugs isn't, I mean, it sometimes I guess stems from curiosity or peer pressure, but a lot
Yeah.
of times it's people, because a lot of the people that we deal with that are addicted to one form of drug or another, 9 times out of 10 are as a homeless individual. And
Yeah.
that's, it's like their life's not going awesome. And so they're
Yeah.
looking for something to help alleviate that.
Yeah. And a lot of that comes from early childhood abuse and early childhood neglect. And I've watched some lectures on that kind of stuff. Like I think it's Dr. Gaber Mate, and he talks about addiction as a trying to add certain chemicals to your brain that you're not giving yourself, like dopamine and serotonin and things. And if you do these drugs, it sort of replaces what like a kind of standard person would be, feeling most of the time. They'd be feeling a general sense of um, like not being super depressed, not being super anxious, like just the general amount of depression and the general
Yeah.
amount of anxiety. And then so when you do certain drugs, it kind of brings you a little bit more to a functional normal level. But um, certain drugs can be kind of overwhelming, and then they make you want to do them over and over and over. And they're really bad for you. So I think if it's due to childhood, traumas, which I think a lot of it is, um, then it's going to take time for adults who are dealing with that issue to kind of accept that trauma, go through a bunch of therapy, and then find outlets like exercise and maybe work, things that can replace the time that you were spending feeling horrible and doing drugs.
Yeah. Because I
So
mean, I've always felt like with it, uh, really like any drug, I feel like it shouldn't necessarily be illegal to use them. It's your body, your choice. I mean, if you really want to smoke meth, that's up to you. It really should only become illegal when your actions are having a negative impact on other people. Like the example of mugging somebody or stealing from them because you're
yeah,
hopped up on something, which I understand that the likelihood of that kind of event happening when you're on drugs is obviously much higher than if you're sober. Um, so for me, it's always been a little like when I was growing up, you just are always told drugs are bad, they're illegal, don't do them, or you'll go to jail, they'll ruin your life, etc. And so I've always kind of grown up with that mentality that that people should go to jail if they're doing drugs. But then as I've gotten older and I've met a lot of people who've done drugs for one reason or another and various kinds of drugs and things, it's like these are people that need to go to prison. These are people that are just making some bad choices, and as long as they're not hurting other people, why should we tell them what they can and can't put into their bodies? I mean, if you really want to break it down, it's like you could say that fucking sugar is illegal. That shit's more addictive than cocaine, and it's causing a plague of type 2 diabetes amongst our population. And we have, a 30+% obesity rate, which
it's a
causes
lot.
far more health problems than, or as
Yeah,
many health problems as a lot of these drugs do. So it's like, where do you draw the line of what you would consider an illegal
sure.
addictive substance, I guess, like if you really wanted to get in the nitty gritty of it.
Well, and the easy example of that is alcohol. Alcohol
Mm-hmm.
causes all sorts of, problems, in society, and deaths,
Oh
car
yeah.
accidents, and you know traumatizing experiences for children. So the idea that alcohol is legal and these other drugs aren't, and you can buy alcohol and you can buy an amount of alcohol that you can kill yourself with quite easily, um, is just obvious hypocrisy and obvious
Mm-hmm.
logical problem, and creates a dissonance and the idea of the government being kind of moral agent. Like, things are a little more complicated than just right and wrong when it comes to these things.
Yeah.
There are reasons that those drugs were made illegal, and there are reasons that they put a ton of money into trying to fight them. It was essentially an industry of prisons and agencies, police agencies, that were getting tons of money to put these people in jail, and that's fucking horrible. And now I do think there is a reason to be concerned about people who can't get jobs and who end up homeless and who become a burden on the system. And that can be said about sugar, because people who end up with health issues end up costing the medical industry a ton of money, especially if they're on state assisted health plans. That costs taxpayers money to do that. So preventative type stuff is obviously how you make better people. You prevent trauma, you prevent health issues, you educate, and you try to you know get people to start early on these things.
Yeah, no, and that's like the biggest thing I think that really has a big impact on society is like how much of our medical resources are just completely exhausted by the the side effects of heavy drug use. And in the case of like obesity and these other things that you could consider drugs, I mean, in a way I consider sugar a drug. Like it's something that I even have to cut back in my own life because I'm like, fuck, I'm like addicted to this. I'm like craving something right now that serves
Sure.
no actual nutritional value for me as a person. Like food is meant to be fuel that keeps your body operating and has, with energy and keeps your organs functioning and shit. And then it's like, fuck, I really want a Reese's peanut butter cup right now. But outside of a little bit of protein from the peanut butter that's in there, there's nothing
Oh
of
yeah, I
real
don't know.
value there.
I don't
And
know if
then,
any of that's real in there. I think it's an illusion of protein.
but like when I see, oh, one of the dogs just
Whoa,
literally leapt
whoa.
away.
It's like, fuck you, I like sugar.
uh,
Oh, Daddy's getting rid of sugar.
but like when I see like how many people are present to our emergency department, a lot of them it's like drug related issues, and a lot of it's meth. Like
Yeah,
Eugene
I'm
and
sure.
Springfield, like other places in the country, have a real meth problem, especially amongst the homeless population. And so you just start to think like, in this fantasy world, if meth and these other illegal substances didn't exist, like think about how many more resources we would have for actual emergencies that people are having, like medically, like a heart attack or car accident or something like that, versus how much are exhausted on people who just continuously come in freaking out because they smoked a bunch of meth and are either hallucinating or having a manic episode or actually suffering some kind of health crisis because they've almost killed themselves with like an OD or something. And so that's where like my annoyance really comes in, is because it's taking away from other people who have like legitimate problems essentially. And so it's like I would like these people to be able to get treatment in a different way other than just putting them in jail and hoping that when they get out they don't do it again, when we all fucking know that they will.
Well, and going to jail makes it harder for you to get a job later. And so,
Yep.
because if you got to put that on your, your resume or your application, which you're supposed to, which a lot of people probably lie, or a lot of people end up doing, other jobs where they're just not concerned about that because they need people.
Mm-hmm.
And, and then you end up around other people who are who are fighting addiction and who are like on the precipice of using all the time. And so that's, yeah, it makes sense. And from a general libertarian perspective, you're an adult and you get to make decisions about yourself that affect you. And you can poke yourself in the eye, you can chop your arm off. I mean, obviously you might die or whatever, but um, you can't make things illegal that people can do in their home with very little resources, like a lot of these things you can make in your house, like you can grow or whatever, like salvia or whatever. um Not that I ever did that or know anything about salvia, but
I would
um
never assume so.
I literally haven't. Salvia is like one of the things that like scared the shit out of me, because it seemed like real cheap and real like nobody was like, man, that was fun. It was always like, oh, it's fucking weird. I don't know what that's about. Like, I don't know where I went
Let's
there
do
for
it
a moment.
again.
I don't know. It always gave me a negative impression. um but yeah, it's one of those like it's taken so long for the things that, like, at least my generation, our generation, kind of, I think, already takes for granted, which is these kind of like, duh, it shouldn't be illegal. Like, why would it be? Like,
Mm-hmm.
who is it hurting for somebody to do heroin in the corner? It's hurting them, and
Yeah.
that sucks. And we should, if we care about them, we might want to talk to them and find out why they're doing it and why they think nobody cares. Because you don't do that kind of stuff if you're going, man, I have great relationships and I feel like everybody cares about me and I feel really loved and I fucking, I'm struggling, but I'm working on it.
Really interested in taking the difficulty of my life up a notch or two.
Yeah. It's like you're doing really well and you're like, you want a sand trap in your way and you're like, well, I guess I'll just do some heroin for a while and see how
Yeah,
that
exactly. Yeah.
goes. Heroin probably makes you, I've never done heroin, but heroin probably makes you feel amazing, because I have uh taken hydrocodone and stuff like that for uh after surgery
Okay.
for fun. No, it was a long time
Oh,
ago.
is this your testiotomy or whatever?
No. I don't know what that is. I never had my testiotomy. No, but I had a kidney stones a couple times, and
Oh
I
yeah,
had
yeah.
interureter lithotripsy, which is a where
Fuck, that sounds as made up as the shit I just said.
they jam it into your pee hole, and
Thanks, nice
uh
visual.
yeah, that's my pee hole. That's probably pretty
That's
accurate
a
because,
very large pee hole.
well,
I'm
it's
concerned.
enlarged for demonstration purposes.
Oh, I was gonna say, because if
But
your pee hole's that big, like I
I mean,
feel
my
like the
pee hole's
urine's just
probably
falling
closer
out
to
all the
that big.
time. The
That's
urine's just draining
probably
constantly. That's
closer.
urine draining, not anything else.
Yeah, my urine comes out like
No
a
muscular control at
yeah,
all.
there's just it's just like pouring out a cup.
That'd be
Um,
horrifying.
yeah, kidney stones sucked, and then I became addicted to yeah, I think it was hydrocodone because I needed it for about, like, 3 or 4 days,
Mhm.
and then I didn't need it, but I still had a bunch, and I was like, this is. I mean, this stuff makes you feel pretty good. It's pretty debilitating to like you can't do much while you're doing it. But I remember being like, I want more of this, so I had to like just stop taking them. I was smart enough to be like, this is going to be a problem. Like, I can't keep going back to the doctor and being like, my pee hurts. I
It's
need more of
so
that stuff. And then I'm sure I could have found friends
you're
and
just
stuff.
intentionally drinking copious amounts of soda and juice so you can get more stones. You're just like, I
Mm,
gotta get that build up on.
yeah, I gotta drink more orange juice and milk and soda.
See, I
Oh,
luckily
that
I've
sucks. I
never
don't want to. Oh man, I don't want to think about that. Kidney stones hurt bad.
the only time I ever got like a hard like a
On
stronger
hard on.
hard on
The only time I ever got
I
on.
ever got
Let's talk
the
about
only
like
time I ever
really
got an erection
specific hard
was
ons.
but the only time I ever got like a hardcore painkiller was, well, so twice. Like once I got it when I had a tooth pulled, and I didn't even end up taking any of it because the ibuprofen pretty much just was fine, and like it didn't really wasn't that bad of a pain level. And then they gave me some after I got my vasectomy. She gave me like a prescription for a few days because she's like, you might be pretty sore for a couple of days after this, understandably so, because I just cut your fucking nutsack open and cauterized some tubes in there. Fun stuff.
It's graphic.
Anyway, yeah. Oh man, I could get into a really graphic story about how that vasectomy went. It would probably turn every dude listening off of ever considering getting a vasectomy.
Yeah,
Mine did not go super awesome.
I'm pretty sure my brothers didn't either. I've heard a bunch of bad stories about it. Like,
I
you think
what's
it's
funny
very
is,
common and it would go well, but
well, what's
sometimes it doesn't.
interesting is before I went to do it, there was a few people that I work with, a few guys that I work with that have had them done, and all of them were like, "Oh yeah, it's no big deal. Like they just
Yeah,
numb me, and you're in and out in like 10 minutes. Like your balls swell up for a few days, but but after a long
that's
weekend, you're
normal.
pretty much good to go or whatever." So I was like, okay, like I had a lot of anxiety about it, but yeah, it did not go super awesome for me. Anyway, but I got a prescription for, it was either oxycodone or hydrocodone, one of the codones. And so I took one when I got home after my surgery because she was like, you should probably take one when you get home because once your numbing wears off, you're going to feel this. And so I took one, and all that happened to me was I just sat on the toilet for no particular, it's just where I happened to be sitting.
Oh, okay.
And well, what it was is I was sitting on the toilet because my stomach got like violently upset from
Yeah,
it.
and you're worried.
And so I was basically sitting on the toilet with a garbage can in my lap and then I just sat there for an hour, just feeling horribly sick.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was from the medication or just like my body coming down off the trauma of fucking the vasectomy that I had. And so I didn't take another one after that. I was like, "Ooh, this is horrible. I don't want to risk this again."
Those medications can really mess with your stomach, especially if you don't eat before you take them. Even if you eat something, it doesn't necessarily help. But
Yeah.
I got over that because I kept taking them for a while. But
now there's some
they make your stomach feel really fucking weird.
Yeah, there's a lot of patients that we have that they get addicted to that shit and they're taking so much of it. And I'm like, God damn, I took one and I felt like I was gonna fucking die for an hour. Not really die, but like I felt so sick.
Yeah.
And so that stuff scares
me. Normally the nausea fades and then it turns into just pain relief and just like I would call it like a mild foggy euphoria. That's how it was for me when I took it. It's just like being super chill. But and kind of just like everything's pretty cool. Everything's pretty cool.
Sweet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't I just in a perfect world, just drugs wouldn't exist. We would all be happy enough to just exist in our lives without needing something to alter our state of mind to cope, I feel fortunate because I've never I've
I
never felt a desire to do any, like I've never done any drugs at all. I've never
yeah,
smoked a fucking joint, nothing. Like I just have no desire to do it. And I think it's because I don't like anything that takes away my sense of control over myself. Like
sure.
and I don't even drink hardly at all. And if I do, I have like one beer. And it's because
Yeah,
like when you get to that buzzy stage, it's kind of fun. But anything further past that, where I feel like I am not in full control of my thoughts
yeah.
and what I'm saying and stuff, like I don't like that. So I mean, I just stay away from almost all that stuff
Yeah.
myself.
I think a lot of people do certain drugs, especially ones we've been talking about,
Hmm.
because of negative reasons, right?
Hmm.
They're trying to feel good, but other people do drugs like psychedelics and things for very different reasons, and they drink alcohol for different reasons. And some of those drugs I think are good for stress relief, for changing your perspective, for mixing it up, and for and they can it can be fun doing something novel with your brain in a generally safe atmosphere around people that are fun and cool.
Yeah.
The drugs are I think traditionally more for helping in general, like helping your like thinking, and for helping your body. And there's a kind of perversion to certain drugs nowadays, like meth and such, that can be synthesized. But for the most part, I think people did drugs. I'm sure like opium back in the day, like in the Wild West, was
Hmm.
overused and such, but that
Oh, so
also
was
kind of,
cocaine, man. Cocaine was the miracle drug back then. They would
yeah,
just prescribe that shit for
sure.
everything.
But there's a certain level of synthesization, whatever that word is. There's a certain amount of cooking and making that sort of creates that, wherein, in the more ancient past, you would eat coca leaves, and that was, it wasn't bad. It wasn't for, any major reason. It's like drinking coffee or whatever. And people have been doing ayahuasca, for a long time in the jungles, and it isn't to heal your body, but it is, people think it heals certain psychological issues and allows you to think differently and look at things differently. And I think that should be available to people, um, with a certain amount of information behind it, like especially DMT and psychedelics like that. You should know what you're getting into. You should know generally doses. You should have a certain amount of kind of mentorship behind it. You shouldn't. I mean, you can do experiments, in life, and see how it goes. But I
Well, I
think
think
that
that's why the
it doesn't have to be because you were traumatized as a kid and now you want to forget the world. It could be because you're genuinely curious about consciousness in general.
well, and that's why I think that the idea of them like like allowing more experimentation with like psilocybin and things like that. It's
Yeah.
like there. I mean, there's other reasons to explore it and experiment and see what it can offer. And I guarantee you, if I get cancer or something, I'm gonna probably start smoking fucking weed because fuck it. Like there's medical value to some of them
Sure.
that I think is worth exploring. But I just, for me, at my current state and healthy being, I luckily just have no
Yeah.
desire to do any of it. But I cope in other ways by like
Well,
writing really
and you
horribly violent books and things like
Yeah, sure.
that.
Well, and you like control, and so
Yeah.
you stay in control. And I think there's something to be said about not being reliant on external things that much. If you're addicted to alcohol, and you end up in a situation where you can't get it, then that can have really negative consequences. And I think that you should be generally able to kind of take breaks from things, even from writing and from exercising, and you shouldn't be addicted to just doing the same things over and over and over again, because you become kind of um, a self like loop. Like you're just, I don't know. That's obviously like a personal kind of
Mhm.
perspective. Like there's nothing wrong with being efficient and kind of doing the same thing over and over again, but I think it's boring. And I think that I personally enjoy getting away from my routines and getting away from the things that I feel like I have to do every day. like, like I go camping, I don't take a shower, I don't use my phone for a few days. And I think that's a good exercise in discipline. It's a kind of um, stoic philosophy. I'm not a stoic, but I like that aspect of it, is the idea that, you're not a slave to your own habits and to external, pleasures and things like that.
Mhm.
Because most of the time you are, like, most of the time you're kind of um, just going through routines.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. It's very easy to, I'm a very like routine oriented person. And so
For
sometimes I
sure.
feel like I have to kind of force myself out of it just to get a different perspective or
Yeah.
feel like I'm living a little, especially with the pandemic, over the last
Yeah.
year, like routine, I think has become even more. Well, I think for some people, they've lost all sense of routine because they're not like getting up and going to work if they're working from home, like it's, upended their stuff in that way. But for me, it's like almost made my routine more concrete because it's like now I'm kind of even more limited on the things that I can do right now. So I kind of just keep doing the same things over and over again.
Sure. Very nice. I think that was a good topic.
Yeah, yeah.
Good topic talk. So let's get into some recommendations. Oh, I want to
Recommendations.
mention one
Yeah,
last thing, because
of
I think
course.
it's very helpful,
Hmm.
related to the reasons why people become obese and become alcoholics and do drugs. There's a study called the ACE or ACE study,
I don't think
about
I've heard of this actually. It sounds
yeah,
familiar.
I probably told you about it a while back because I took the test and
Hmm.
got a fairly high score myself. But let me it's the website that I liked is endcan.org, and they talk about the ACE study and the negative effects of early childhood abuse and neglect. I think it's a really, really good cause, a good study, and some of the negative factors that are related to that are early death, risky health behaviors like drinking and drugs, low life outcomes, chronic health issues. So there's some good resources for looking up that info at that website. Um, I took that quiz a while back, and I scored, over whatever. I scored enough to kind of give myself a bit of a break when it comes to, like, wanting to hide from the world, because I had, certain things going on in
So,
the
so in
childhood
this
that kind
case, is
of
it like a high
made me.
score means you have like a more traumatic history?
Yes.
So, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So it'll ask you questions about your early childhood, like up to adolescence age, like how, did your parents go through divorce? Did you feel like you were in danger? Was one of your parents an alcoholic? It's just this series of questions,
Oh,
and you get
dang.
a score at the end. And the higher the score, the more likely you are to have negative long-term life outcomes, including obesity and alcoholism and things like that, because you were subjected to stress so early on that you've created a kind of permanent neurological map that is alleviated by addictive behaviors that are not healthy.
Yeah, there's a lot of people dealing with this.
I
Because
think
that's a
so.
whole other topic we could cover too, is just fucking childhood trauma and
Yeah.
parenting. And another great topic too would just be the American diet in a way too. There's a lot of great documentaries. I'm trying to remember, there was one that I watched that came on like 2014 that was a great study on just all of the shit that is put into like food, especially like dried goods and things like that, and
Yeah.
like just how processed like so many foods that are sold in America are, and how it's just all leading to us having tons of health problems and weight issues. And it's a interesting topic as well.
Yeah, for sure.
We're gonna have so
More
many
stuff.
episodes, Joe. Just so many.
So many to come.
So many.
Speaking of coming, uh, I recommend it. No, what do you, what is your
Here,
recommendation?
I'll do a little share screen because I pulled it up on. Oh wait,
Ooh, you're sharing now. I've never
I
seen you
know, but
share anything.
you're gonna have to enable me because it says
Okay, let
host is
me,
disabled participant screen share. I just
um,
pulled it up on Amazon, so there could be like a little visual for anybody watching this on YouTube's.
how do I allow to multi-pin? No. I don't see an option to allow you to screen share. Okay, let's see here. Um, okay, multiple participants can screen share simultaneously.
Ooh,
Advanced sharing options. Who can share? All participants is
that
on
should be fine.
there.
I think it's only you and
So
I, so it should be safe.
try it out.
Let's take a look. We're all learning together, people. Oh, yeah, there we go. That's working.
Yeah. I can't see your screen though. Oh, now I
Oh, there we
can.
go. Okay, so this was my recommendation. I
Oh,
actually
I can't see
literally.
it. It's oh, there it is. Okay, I got it. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay. So I literally actually just finished reading this book last night. It's called Negative Space by B.R. I think that's pronounced Yeager or maybe Yeager. And it was actually going to tie sort of into the topic I was going to bring, but I wasn't sure if we were going to have time to cover both because you and I tend to just talk a really long time constantly. Like we are notorious for it, I think. Okay, sorry, I was just trying to scroll down and see if they had any other info. Anyway, but it's a very dark and very dour, depressing, kind of, almost like a horror novel. Anyway, it takes place in this town, and it follows the perspective of five different students of this high school. And basically, this town that they live in, Kinsfield is what it's called, has like an exceptionally high suicide rate. Like so much so that like it's commonplace for them to just find like students hanging off of a bridge, like that have killed themselves and or jumped off the bridge. Anyway, and so it follows these five students just sort of navigating high school in a town where like the suicide rate's almost like an epidemic basically. And anyway, as the novel goes, you start finding out there's kind of like maybe a darker, seedier presence that's sort of causing this phenomenon. Anyway, it's really good. It's one of those books that's so dark and kind of just gets under your skin. Like it was literally like affecting my sleep. And you just feel like it put me in like a weird headspace after I get done reading it sometimes because I'm just like, God damn, this book is so oppressive and dour. Like there's like almost no hope in it at all. So it's definitely not for everybody. But if you're looking for something that will really kind of get under your skin and just approaches like the subject matter of suicide in a kind of an interesting way, it's definitely worth a read. It's only like $5 on Kindle, it looks like, or you can get a paperback copy new for about $15. But I totally
Nice.
recommend it. It's a really good book. Just not for everybody, that's for sure.
It says, ever wonder where teenage children go at night? No, I've
No,
never, I've never, I've
not
never,
usually.
I literally don't care. As long as they don't show up over here knocking on my door, waking me up. Yeah, that sounds interesting. It sounds super scary. And I don't know if I've ever read a horror book. I'm not into horror movies. So, but I really enjoy reading, and there's a whole different kind of aspect to reading. So
Well, I was gonna say you should
might be
check out.
interesting.
I mean, you read Anathema, which a lot
I
of people would
did,
consider
sure.
like a pretty heavy horror novel, and but horror novel, like reading horror is so different than because a movie typically like the
It's like,
horror is in the jump
yeah,
scares and stuff, and you can't
yeah,
do jump scares in a book. So
no,
in novels, it's more about creating this atmosphere
yeah.
and like creating the key to horror is you have to like create characters that people really care about a lot so
So
that
you
when
can
they
kill
are put
them.
in these yeah so when they're put in like really dire scary situations you feel like a stronger
Sure.
connection to
So you
them.
can relate to that. It's a little bit
Mhm.
more like you're creating empathy through that system as opposed to on TV and in a movie. It's kind of hard to create that empathetic response, that like mirror neuron response. That's why you have to do it in these like short bursts.
Mhm.
Sometimes if you don't have the time to develop a really good character that you can build on.
Yeah, because I mean,
Um,
horror is like one of my favorite genres. I
yeah.
read tons of horror books, and I've never really like scared necessarily by them. Some of them I get
Yeah.
like a little creeped out, or they kind of get in my head a little bit, like Negative Space. I mean, that's like a book where I was reading it before I'd go to bed, and then like I'd have these fucked up dreams because I was like, man, that book's like really uh, what
Wow.
like the way it's written and stuff. It's really written well as well. Like the
Yeah.
writer is she's a good writer, or he. Sorry, I think it's a man. Um,
It's
anyway,
a
but
BR or whatever.
yeah, BR. I think I'm pretty sure it's a male writer. I think
I don't know.
not that it really matters, but
Yeah, that sounds cool. I like book recommendations. I'm gonna read The Terminal List next. So I can't recommend it because I haven't read it yet.
Hmm.
And I'm still finishing Deadwood. I like it. I would definitely recommend it thus far, but that is not my recommendation. So I'm
Oh, okay.
getting in extras.
I know
Com
you're gonna say you're just kind of
coming,
shooting from the hip. Coming is
come.
a good recommendation for men and women. I hear that women, the female orgasm lasts a lot longer than the male orgasm. It's harder to achieve usually, but much more satisfying from what I understand. So
Um,
sorry, coming is
yeah,
one.
coming. And then books. Um,
Perfect.
but my actual recommendation is Shark Tank Australia, because I cannot get enough of that fucking show, dude.
Shark
It's
Tank
so much
Australia.
fun.
Okay.
I enjoy it for some dumb reason. You know what? At first, it was just like their accents were just super fun to listen to,
Mm-hmm.
and I used to watch Shark Tank US, and it's a little more cutthroat. It's a little more like uh, everyone's a little more polished. There's a little more pomp and circumstance to it. The sharks in the U.S. are a little more dressed up, a little bit more feisty, and the ones in the Australian one, it's like the same four for a long time. Most it's 4 or 5, and they usually have 4 on at a time, and they're like mostly nice. They're like, it's kind of like it's like you get to watch them kind of give advice to these entrepreneurs, and you get to understand what they're looking into. And because I didn't know any of them, I didn't have these like on the US version, it's got Mark Cuban, and it's got um uh other people that I recognize but can't remember their names. And so I kind of already knew something about how wealthy they are, whereas the Australian ones are just like these random people that they're just saying are wealthy.
This all
And
seems kind of strange that they're so nice because they're all descendants of like a prison colony. So you're like,
that's racist.
do you think they'd all be packing big Bowie
Jesus.
knives and
I'm pretty sure that's a history they're
Okay,
trying to
okay.
get rid of.
Whoa. I'm just saying, all I know about Australia, I
All
learned
of
from
race,
everything I know
all of
about Australia,
Australia.
I learned from Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah.
Paul
Oh,
Hogan is
that's not a knife.
this.
This is
It's
a
a
knife.
knife. Yeah,
They speak
exactly.
like that, and it's so fun. And it's fun because I like doing accents, and Australian's a difficult one if you're not hearing it very often. So now that I hear it like constantly, I like think in Australian accent sometime because I watch it so stupid much. But it's also fun to watch the inventions that come
Uh-huh.
through, and the businesses, and they most of the time it's like it's kind of like educational. It's kind of interesting to see what they're looking for, and what kind of numbers they're looking at, and how much money these people are throwing around. It's there's like drama in the thing, but it's not like anybody's trying to create a bunch of extra drama. Um, although they are, and they're very wealthy business people, so they're not like nice. They're just not as mean as the US ones can be. I've found. Um, I don't know why. I can't stop watching it. So
Are you watching the? Is
check
this
it
like
out.
a? Is it Netflix or Hulu?
Oh,
What are you watching it through?
it's just YouTube. It's just like
Oh, YouTube. Okay.
just on
I mean,
YouTube.
you're really talking it up, so I feel like you should probably tell people where to be able to
Yeah, my bad.
catch
It's just on
the
it's on
episodes
YouTube.
on the old YouTube.
It's like from like 6 years ago or something. I don't even know. It's like it's past their like syndication rules, so they can they're just like fuck it, put it on YouTube and see how it does.
Well, I
Because
think
the
some shows
you
that's like the only way you can watch them anymore. Like I don't know if you ever
oh
watch
yeah.
Whitest Kids You Know, but like you
Yep.
can't find it on anything. Like you can't even buy it like on DVD unless you want to spend like $100 on like a
For the whole box
fucking
set. Yeah.
yeah or something like that. And but then if you go to YouTube, they
Yeah.
have their own channel where they've posted like all the episodes.
That's awesome. Yeah. And they
So
can get, they can make money doing it. So it's
mhm.
not like you're just throwing it out there for no reason. It's like a second life for your show on YouTube.
Yeah.
I love The Whitest Kids. It's a great sketch
Yeah, well,
show.
if you want to binge it, like I said, just go to YouTube.
Oh,
If you want to take if you
I've
want to take a
watched
break,
all of that shit.
if you want to take a break
I
from
watched it when it came out, and I watched it a while back. It's super good. I recommend that as well. Is that too many? Too many
no, it's our
recos?
show. What the fuck cares? We could recommend as many things as we want. Who cares? Fuck it.
Okay. So I think that's going to do it for this show. That is ours.
Mm-hmm.
And Thank you everybody for listening. Thank you for checking us out. Plugs are going to be go to joesnotesblog.com. And for Channing, what do you want people to check out?
You can just follow on Twitter at Novel Scheme, or go to Amazon and look me up, Channing Cornwall, and buy some fucking books.
Chan Corn.
Channing. Also, you should tell people to rate and review our podcast so that we can get a bigger audience as well. Because the more people go and do that, the more eyes can see.
Rate, review. If you want to comment, there's a Facebook page, and or you can just comment on one of our on my personal Facebook page that's linked on the website there. There's also a link at joesnotesblog.com that's also a podcast link. It's a little confusing the way I have the website set up. Don't worry about it. Just don't think too hard. But that links to the actual Facebook page, Fleeting Thoughts Facebook page.
It sounds like Facebook's the easiest way. If people want to write
it's the only way
questions
to,
in, that'd be cool. Because then we can do like a question segment,
I'd
that,
be totally down for that. Also, it's on YouTube. So if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe, and leave your comments down below in that particular channel as well. So we're all over the place.
Yeah.
Both from topic to topic
and metaphysically
and metaphysically. Yeah, like our consciousness, I'm out in space, you're in fucking Alaska.
That's true.
That's also kind of, I can see a little bit of your
I say my bedroom's sort of melding into this reality.
Yeah,
you can see Reese laying sort of kind of keeps popping up in the corner, like right there.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, now
sleeping on the bed.
Turn off your thing for a second so we can see the dog.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's what it's like when you do ayahuasca.
Oh, virtual background. Sorry, I gotta go in here and fucking turn this off. None. There we go.
Oh, little doggy.
Like I said, not a very excited background. Hey, buddy.
It's a very real background. I'm not turning mine off. It's too bad. There's just like, I don't know. There's just meat, like Rocky, just meat hooks back there.
Where the fuck are you living?
I punch them.
Wait, is there meat on the hooks, or are you punching meat hooks? Because
I'm just punching the hooks.
I would say that's a different ball.
And then I'm bleeding and become
way more fucking hardcore than punching.
It is. I'm super hardcore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's my actual exercise routine.
Rocky's a bitch.
Yeah, punching meat.
Yeah.
Take the meat off and then punch the hooks.
Yeah,
pussy,
exactly.
Puss.
That's what's up.
That's what's up, dog. Back there, little doggy.
Little doggy.
I got to hang out with my brother and his dog today. It was nice. I like dogs. Like dogs? Like dogs?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that was an interesting noise.
That was Dizzy groaning. She's like, I think on the other side of the bed in front of the door.
Stop talking about me.
She's been like grumbling because she wants to go outside, even they were just outside like an hour ago. So
dogs always want freedom and shit.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Oh, outside.
Oh, what do you mean you were inside all day while everybody's at work and now you want to fucking be outside in nature?
Weirdo.
Losers.
All right. Goodbye. Thank you.
Farewell.
Farewell.